You know that feeling? The one where your chest tightens the moment you see their name on your phone? Where you replay a single sentence they said for hours? Where you lie awake at 2 a.m.? Not because anything is wrong, but because every cell in your body is lit up. A psychiatrist in Italy drew blood from people who felt exactly like this. When the results came back, they were identical to the blood work of patients with a serious psychiatric disorder. Not similar, identical. And that was only the first thing wrong with them. Because right now, somewhere inside you, a clock is running. You cannot feel it. You cannot slow it down. And scientists have measured exactly when it stops. To understand what they found, you need to forget everything you have been told about the heart. This is not a heart story. This is a brain story, and it starts in a place you would never expect. In 2005, biological anthropologist Helen Fisher and her colleagues at Stony Brook University and Rutgers put 17 people who were intensely in love inside a functional MRI scanner. While the machine tracked their brain activity, each person was shown a photograph of the one they were obsessed with, then a photo of someone neutral, then the one they loved again. What Fisher found was striking. The sight of the beloved did not light up the emotional centers of the brain. It lit up the ventral tegmental area, a tiny factory near the base of the brainstem that manufactures dopamine, the same region that fires when you win a high-stakes bet, the same circuit involved in addiction. Your brain, when you fall in love, does not feel. It wants. It craves. It locks onto a single target and floods you with the same chemical that makes a gambler push all in on a losing hand. And just like a gambler, you do not notice the risk. Fisher found that love also deactivates parts of the brain responsible for critical judgment and negative assessment. You're not just drawn toward this person. Your ability to see their flaws has been chemically muted, but dopamine is only one piece. Something stranger is happening at the same time. Something being quietly taken away. In 1999, psychiatrist Donatella Marazzetti at the University of Pisa drew blood from 20 people who had fallen in love within the past 6 months, 20 patients with severe obsessive-compulsive disorder, and 20 healthy controls. She measured the density of serotonin transporters in each group. What she found won her an Ig Nobel Prize. The people in love had serotonin transporter levels roughly 40% lower than the controls, the same drop seen in the OCD patients. Statistically, the two groups were indistinguishable. That is why you cannot stop thinking about them. Your brain is not choosing to obsess. It has lost the chemical brake that would normally stop it. Serotonin is what gives you the ability to let a thought go, to move on to the next thing. Without enough of it, your mind sticks. The same system that traps someone in a loop of checking the stove 14 times a day is the one keeping your beloved pinned to the front of your mind at all hours. You are not being romantic, you are being hijacked, and your body knows it. In 2004, Marazzetti published a second study, this time measuring hormones. She found that cortisol, the stress hormone, was significantly elevated in men and women who had recently fallen in love compared to those who were single or in long-term relationships. Falling in love is biochemically indistinguishable from being under threat. But here's where it gets truly strange. Testosterone levels in men who had just fallen in love were lower than normal. In women, they were higher. The two sexes were chemically converging. Marazzetti called it an evolutionary trick, as if the body was temporarily leveling the behavioral playing field between partners right when cooperation mattered most. Then in 2006, a team led by Enzo Emanuele at the University of Pavia discovered yet another molecule surging in people who had just fallen in love. Nerve growth factor, a protein involved in neural survival and plasticity. People in early-stage love had NGF levels more than 50% higher than people who were single or in long-term relationships. And the intensity of their romantic feelings on a standardized questionnaire correlated directly with how much NGF was in their blood. So take stock of what is happening inside you at the peak of falling in love. Your dopamine is spiking. Your serotonin has cratered. Your stress hormones are elevated. A growth factor is flooding your nervous system. Your sex hormones are bending toward a stranger. Every one of these changes is real, measurable, and clinically significant. If a doctor ran your blood work without knowing you were in love, they would think something was wrong with you, and every single one of them is temporary. Marazzetti retested her serotonin subjects 12 to 18 months later. Their transporter levels had returned to normal. Emanuele retested his NGF subjects 12 to 24 months after the relationship began. Their levels had dropped to be indistinguishable from those of the control groups. Marazzetti and Canali retested their hormone subjects on the same timeline. Cortisol, testosterone, all of it had reset. The chemical emergency was over. Your body runs this entire program, then shuts it off, like a booster rocket that fires hard enough to escape gravity, then detaches and falls into the ocean. And it does this whether the relationship is going well or not. The timer is not counting down from the last fight. It is counting down from the first kiss. But why? Why would your biology build something so intense just to let it burn out? Helen Fisher has spent decades arguing that romantic love is not an emotion. It is a drive, rooted deep in the mammalian brain, and it evolved for a very specific purpose. Not to make you happy, to make you stay. Human infants are among the most helpless creatures born on this planet. A foal can stand within an hour. A sea turtle hatches and drags itself to the ocean alone. A human baby cannot even hold up its own head for months. It cannot walk for a year. It cannot feed itself for longer than that. It takes years before a human child can survive without constant care. And for most of your species' history, raising one was not a solo job. No hospitals, no formula, no grandparents down the road. Just two people, bound by an overwhelming chemical compulsion to remain near each other and remain focused on each other until the most fragile window had closed. Fisher has pointed to data suggesting that across cultures, the peak intensity of romantic love lasts roughly 18 months to 4 years. Not a coincidence. That window maps closely onto the period when a human infant transitions from total helplessness to basic mobility and rudimentary independence. Your passionate love was never meant to last forever. It was meant to last long enough. So does that mean it is all a lie? That the feeling fades and nothing is left? Not exactly. In 2011, a team including Fisher, Arthur Aaron at Stony Brook, and neuroscientist Lucy Brown scanned the brains of couples who had been married an average of 21 years and still reported being intensely in love. What they found surprised even them. These long-term lovers still showed activation in the same dopamine-rich reward areas as the newly infatuated. The VTA was still firing, the wanting was still there, but something was different. The regions associated with anxiety and obsession, the ones that made early love feel like a crisis, were quiet, and new regions had come online. Areas linked to calm, to pain regulation, to long-term attachment. The chemical storm had passed, but it had been replaced by something else. Something that in certain couples ran deeper than the original high. The expiration date was never on love. It was on the obsession, on the hijack, on the version of you that could not eat, could not sleep, could not think about anything else. That version was always going to end. It had to. You cannot function in a permanent neurochemical emergency. What comes after is quieter, less cinematic. Your serotonin returns. Your cortisol drops. Your brain stops treating this person like a crisis and starts treating them like home. You stop replaying their words and start finishing their sentences. You stop needing to see them every hour and start trusting they will be there tomorrow. And here's the part most people miss. That transition is not a failure. It is the entire point. The storm was never the love. The storm was the setup. Remember that feeling? The one where your chest tightens the moment you see their name, where every cell is lit up and you cannot explain why. That was never your heart talking. That was a 300,000-year-old system doing exactly what it was built to do. Pulling you in just long enough, then trusting you to stay on your own.